Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel and welcome back to a new video. So today I'm going to be sharing with you guys 5 overlooked Xbox 360 games that you guys can pick up for your collection. Now I tried to go with a different variety of games just so they weren't all one genre, but we'll go ahead and get right into the games here. So the very first one I have to show you is Red Faction Armageddon. So this is a third-person shooting game developed by Volition and published by THQ. So this is actually the sequel to Red Faction Guerrilla. So this game I feel like usually gets a little bit more flack because of the overall art design, and kind of the destructible nature of the game is a little bit more toned down just because of the underground setting that you're usually in within this game, where in Guerrilla you're kind of like going all around like a different world, so you're kind of destroying like buildings and stuff like that. So this one's a little bit different in that way, but I honestly find this game a little bit more fun than Red Faction Guerrilla in my opinion, just because it feels more refined in terms of the gameplay. There's like psychic abilities that you have in the game, and the weapons in the game are actually a lot more fun to play with. I rented this back in the day from a Redbox and didn't really have too much expectations from it, but I actually beat it all in one day and had a lot of fun playing it. There's a pretty notable weapon in this game where you get a little unicorn. I believe his name's Mr. Toots, but he shoots like a rainbow out of his butt and basically destroys anything that it touches, so that's always a fun part of the game. But like I said, I feel like this game definitely gets overlooked because of Red Faction Guerrilla, but like I said, this one's a lot of fun and definitely recommend it if you never played it. And it's usually pretty cheap, so you can definitely find it. It's definitely out there for sure. And then the next one we have here is a racing game called Ridge Racer Unbounded. So this is developed by Bugbear and published by Bandai Namco. So this, of course, is in the Ridge Racer catalog. This one's a little bit different than the typical Ridge Racer game that you might be used to. Typically, they're like arcade racers, but this one is definitely more leaning into like a burnout style type of game where you can actually destroy your opponents and you want to like crash into your opponents. The artwork in this game, or the art design in this game, is super cool. I really love the urban setting into it, so it's like you're drag racing and stuff like that. Always love that cool style, almost kind of like Fast and Furious sort of like design, I guess you could say. But it's actually a very beautiful game on the Xbox 360 and definitely a lot of fun. There's also a really cool track editor in the game, so if you're looking for that, that might be interesting for you. But definitely a cool Ridge Racer game that doesn't, I feel like, get talked about too much. So that is a racing game. And then the next one we have here is Prey. So this is an FPS game. So this is developed by Human Heads and is published by 2K. So there's also another game called Prey, which came out on later consoles. I want to say it came out in the PS4 era, which is not actually the same game, which is funny enough. I think this game came out in like 2006 or something like that. I also think it's kind of funny because I did talk about Human Head Studios in my previous video about the original Xbox, because they actually made a game called Dead Man's Hand. So this game is also underrated in my opinion, or kind of overlooked in my opinion, much like that game was. But this is an FPS game where basically you get abducted by aliens. You do play as this Cherokee guy, and you're trying to rescue your girlfriend who also got abducted by the aliens. So there's a lot of cool alien design in the game. This is just like one example of them, but there's other types of aliens. This game has a super cool art level, or art design, and has really cool level design as well. A lot of it has to do with like anti-gravity, where you're kind of like going through like portals and stuff like that. It really messes with your perspective, and I've never really seen that too much with the game, and definitely this one's super unique. The very beginning of the game has a really cool soundtrack, or you're listening to a jukebox. It has a really cool soundtrack. I definitely really like that about the game. But there's lots of cool guns in the game. It's kind of neat because you kind of like lean into your Cherokee background, or I think your like grandfather basically talks you to go like into your more like ancestral background. So you can kind of go between like a spirit world sometimes too. So that's also a pretty cool element in it. So like I said, cool level design, cool art design. Definitely recommend this one. A little trippy at points, and it actually can be kind of brutal too. I didn't really expect it to be as brutal as it was, but I guess it's an FPS game, so definitely very cool. Recommend this one for sure. And the next game we have here is Viking Battle for Asgard. So this is an action-adventure game, or also a hack-and-slash game, developed by Creative Assembly and published by Sega. So of course this one leans heavily into Norse mythology, where you do play as a Viking. I'm pretty sure the premise is that one of the Norse gods is unleashing an army of dead upon the world, so you basically have to combat it as a Viking. So basically there's a bunch of large-scale battles, much like with some other hack and slash games, but of course you are fighting against the army of the dead. And of course, like with most hack and slash games, there's lots of cool combos, lots of cool upgrades, and this one's super cool, of course, because it is Norse mythology. I really do enjoy Norse mythology in general, so it's super cool to play a hack and slash game centered around it in general. Of course, there's games now, especially like God of War Ragnarok or stuff like that, but this one, like I said, a little bit before its time, and definitely cool to see a hack and slash game featuring Norse mythology. So that is Viking. And then the very last game we have is Prototype. So this one I would kind of describe as a third-person open-world action game. So this one is developed by Radical Entertainment and is published by Activision. So this one I feel like usually gets overlooked because I think it came around the same time as Infamous, and Infamous, of course, is a fantastic game for the PS3. So this was why this one kind of got overshadowed a little bit, I think. But this one's a lot of fun. It's actually super wacky in terms of all the different stuff that you can do. Kind of reminds me of like a Crackdown in terms of like the open worldness. I'm pretty sure it's set in Manhattan, and as far as I'm concerned, it has most of the major set pieces that you would typically see in Manhattan. So that's a pretty cool detail about it. But pretty much the premise of the game is that there's like a virus taking over the world and it's turning people into monsters. But I think you have the virus itself, but you can kind of use it to your advantage, of course. And then your arms kind of transform into different types of weapons and such. So you can kind of see here on the front that he's kind of turning his hands into blades. But as you go further in the game, you of course get more powerful, which means you can do a lot more things. Much like I said, with like a Crackdown kind of game where you progressively get more powerful. But like I said, super cool. Obviously, some of the games feel like a little bit more hack and slash, where you're kind of like beating up enemies and stuff like that. But super cool. I would say like open sandbox game, and definitely recommend it if you've never played it, and definitely recommend the sequel as well. I kind of like usually lump those with each other because they're kind of like one and the same, but definitely very cool games. So that is all my overlooked games for Xbox 360. Let me know if you guys have played any of these in the comments. Let me know if you want to see one of these in the future, and I hope you guys enjoyed, and thanks for watching.